Hey, this topic will be it'll teach us how to take an expression with many logarithms in it and try to convert it down into one. To do that, there are three properties of logarithms that we need to know. I'm going to write those down in a second. But the reason why these properties exist is because, and that's a much more detailed answer than what I'm giving here, but logarithms come from taking the inverse of exponential functions. So when that happens, that's why we need logarithms. Like I said, that doesn't even scratch the surface, but Google it if you want. It's pretty interesting. Regardless, the first property of logarithms that we need to know about is that if we have log base a of x times y, we are allowed to rewrite it as log base a of x plus log base a of y. That's just a property, again, it stems from the fact of the properties of exponents, actually. The second property that we need to know is log base a of x divided by y, or like that fraction bar means to divide. We can take this apart by doing log base a of x minus the log base a of y. So when you have multiplying in the beginning, you can separate them out into two separate logs using addition. Sorry, that's my backwards arrow. That's shown here. This property here is showing that when you have a log and you have some division, you can separate it out using subtraction. The third property doesn't seem, I don't know, as logical if there is such a word, but if we have something like this, we have log base a of x to the third, we are allowed to put the 3 out in front and say 3 times the log of x base a. Those two things are equivalent as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to be given an expression that has a lot of adding, subtracting, and maybe some of this kind of multiplication, and we're going to have to put it back together. So let's just say that we're given the expression 1/2 log a of y, base a of y, plus 2 log y, log a, of w minus log base a of x. Alright, so the first thing I look for is the property that has to do with the exponents. I have a half out in front of this first term here, so I am going to rewrite it as log base a of y to the 1/2, which is also the square root of y. I'm going to copy that plus, but now I have another number out in front that will be counted as an exponent. So log base a of w squared. The last term does not have an exponent out front, so I'm just going to copy it. Now I'm just going to go back to the beginning and look at those first two terms that are connected with pluses. So pluses means that I can recombine them with multiplication. And the etiquette of math says that the w is going to go in front of the square root. Minus log base a of x. Let's see if I can move this up. Oops, I don't know what I just did. There we go. So the last step in this here is, notice now we have subtraction in between. Subtraction, according to our properties there, means that we can put a fraction bar or a division bar. So now we're going down to 1 log, still base a. The w square root of y goes on top, the x goes on the bottom. So we've taken a really messy logarithmic expression and converted it down into one single logarithm using the properties. So let's say that we have 5 log base 3 of w minus 6. Notice that's in parentheses, that's important. Minus 3 log base 3 of w plus 6. So again, I'm going to do the same process. I'm going to look for anything that could become an exponent. The first term has a 5, as that will be the exponent. So log base 3 of w minus 6 to the 5th. Copy that minus sign, but that 3 is an exponent. So we're going to do minus. Log base 3 does not change. The w plus 6 does not change, but we will put the third power up there. So that's pretty tight. We have a minus sign left over. So that means that we can convert these two logs, put them into one single log using division. So log base 3, there's my division bar on the top. I know, it looks gross, doesn't it? But as long as we stick to what the properties say, it's totally fine. So on the top we have the w minus 6 to the 5th power, and on the bottom of that we have w plus 6 to the 3rd power. Alright, let's start. And again, they start off looking pretty gross. And you're just going to kind of have to take it logically And it does, I guess you could say it gets better the more you do, just like anything in math, right? Again, as I'm writing this one, look at the big parentheses. This is going to have a lot of stuff in it. So we're going to start by tackling that first, whatever's in the parentheses. Kind of makes sense like when you go to do PEMDAS. All right, so notice, so I do have parentheses, but I have to I have to bring that 3. I have to bring the 3 and put that as an exponent. So 2 log b, it's going to be a while before we get to that. Copy in the plus. So now the third power goes to everything that's going on in here. So first, let's bring that in. So we're going to do 3. We'll keep the log base b of y. Ooh, my handwriting's getting messy. Sorry about that. Minus log base b of z to the 4th. All right, my next step is going to be to take care of this. The minus sign tells me that I can divide this. So 2, you know what it is this stylus I'm using is tearing. So it's getting really sloppy. Sorry. So I'm going to convert those 2 logs. How do I want to do it? I think I will, so plus, I'm going to keep the 3 there for a minute. That's a little more baby step, and I think that's a good idea. Log base b of y over z to the 4. Okay. I'm just going to scroll this up just a smidge. I hope. Maybe not. All right. Now, still going to leave this whole first term alone. I'm not going to touch it. I'm going to bring this 3 here as an exponent up here. So log base b, and that's of what? Y over z4 all raised to the 3rd power. Okay. This next step, the 2, is going to come up here. So I have log base b of x squared plus log base b, oof, messy stuff here, y over z to the 4th cubed. And then finally, we end up with log base b. Since we have the plus sign, we're going to put x squared times y over z to the 4th cubed. And that is the unexpanded version. So again, it's just kind of going through it little bit by little bit, paying attention to parentheses, that sort of thing. Sorry the handwriting's so bad, I might redo this video. Yikes.